Yo, what's going on everyone? Hope you're all having a fantastic start to the weekend. In this video, we're going to be discussing my updated XRP Elliott Wave counts both on the macro and micro timeframes. I'm still leaning towards higher conviction that XRP is one of the most bullish coins going forward with one of the highest risk reward potentials as well, just based on the possible triangle pattern we have created here from a 7 to 8 year accumulation. I also have high conviction that markets are looking at the same triangle formation even if they aren't versed in the Elliott Wave Theory. From a contrarian perspective, it's not the best to accept what the general markets are looking at, especially if it's the same structure. I typically try to be skeptical when everyone may be looking at the same thing, but we do have a ton of evidence because of that 7 to 8 year accumulation. We also have one of the strongest accumulations going on against any other coin for that matter. So that means XRP is in a very special category of its own. It's also one of the most closely monitored coins due to the SEC case that just has concluded, by the way, in favor of Ripple. Whether you hate it or love it, it is one of the most anticipated coins of the year. So for this specific triangle pattern that everyone may be eyeing at as well, the Elliott Wave Theory actually has that specific pattern, or the specific triangle pattern dedicates towards that triangle. So the triangle pattern is usually positioned within wave 4s like we have here, or wave Bs, or more advanced complex wave structures. But more importantly is that we have also perfectly positioned ourselves for this triangle within the macro for this wave 4 as a triangle. So then this makes this wave 4 triangle all that more enticing, as we do have all the necessary components of the triangle all the way up to that subwave E, and it would be blasphemy if we just breezed over this because you think a triangle is not a high probability pattern. The triangle is actually characterized as a sideways structure, and the stars seem to be aligning quite nicely as we do have the assumed triangle being complete. But very quickly, in terms of the actual construction, we have an A, B, C, D, E, and we all have the necessary components within that A, B, C, D, E as simple zigzags, or one possible complex structure of a WXY multiple zigzag pattern. So we do have that all aligned, and like I've said, all the stars seem to be aligning on the macro, and we may be looking for a possible massive breakout to the upside of this BD trend line. So if we're talking about in terms of targets, the possible targets is going to be around $7 to $12 as a conservative target, as we're looking for a post-thrust triangle measurement based on the apex and the widest part of the triangle. When we're looking for a breakout of this apex, we take the widest part of the triangle, and then we use that as a measurement in terms of where the possible targets may be for XRP. And right now we have it labeled around $7 to $12 per XRP, and that's around about 1,000% gain. So that's a huge gain just in itself, and there's a very good risk reward potential based on that. Now, based on this risk reward potential, we are positioned very well within that triangle, so no problem if we do break this of soft invalidation, but we do have that hard invalidation level of that triangle, and that's why the Elliott Wave Theory does this very good job of giving us proper invalidation levels, which is going to be around that subwave C of the triangle. And if we break that level, this triangle will be completely invalidated, and we may be working in a very, very bearish structure if that level breaks. So zooming right into the current structure of the local time frames, that's where you guys are probably most interested in. Again, if we take a look at the 4-hour time frame, we have that last part of that subwave E as a possible A, B, C, or WXY, but we have already exhausted the WXY. That WXY is going to be reserved for that larger 1-2-1-2 count. But for this ABC structure, no matter what, it does lead us to the same levels as a WXY pattern as well, because that C wave is implied or concluding as a possible 5-wave move in itself. And after that, we were looking for a breakout to the upside, which we got from that past week. We had a 70% move off of the lows. That was really convincing that this may be working impulsively to the upside, and we may be also be working impulsively to the upside, especially that we had a bounce off of this after a possible termination of a wave 2 of the intermediate degree. Now we have a possible 5-wave move going into that intermediate degree wave 1, and we have a 1, 2, 3 triangle for wave 4 and a 5 conclusion. This 1-2 can also be seen as a possible expanded flat, where it also gave us a very good target zone of that C wave, albeit a little bit deep into that 261.8% zone, but it does give us still as an ABC sharp corrective structure going into that 78.6 and 61.8 zone into that golden Fibonacci zone, which is very important for a wave 2 correction and is also very highly characteristic of cryptocurrencies to go into that zone as well. So if that's the case, we're looking for another 5-wave move out of this region after a wave 2, and that's also what we got from this past day or two. So that gave us a lot of strength, and it's giving me very good signals that the markets or smart whales are starting to accumulate XRP more as we start to go into more deeper territories. I think the whales don't want this to be going any deeper. I think they're accumulating or have accumulated as much XRP as they can at this point. And again, this rejection was to be expected for that wave 1 or wave 2. And we are looking for this triangle breakout eventually to happen, and that's going to be as seen by this wave 3. So a lot of the stars are aligning even on the shorter time frames, ladies and gentlemen. So I am possibly anticipating a massive move to the upside for a wave 3 of the intermediate degree in orange. So that's going to be how I'm going to be looking at XRP on the shorter time frames. I do believe that this is going to be a very, very bullish structure. I'm not sure if this is going to be doing another retracement to the downside, but I'm not really too worried because this is still extremely bullish above this line here where that soft invalidation was anyways. We could be possibly still working in a wave 2 intermediate degree if this does turn out to be a sideways structure, meaning that we may be working in some kind of flat structure if this is a wave 2 sideways structure, but really doesn't matter because it's still extremely highly bullish. And that's why I really like this move off of the lows from the 70% move, because that gives us a lot of room to work with for a possible wave 2. And until this level breaks, there's no reason to talk about a bear structure at this time. As for BTC or Bitcoin, it has a completely different structure, and XRP works in a different cycle of its own. So now that the SEC case has also concluded, I'm also anticipating the markets to start slowly investing into XRP. None of this is financial advice. I'm just giving what the Elliott Wave Theory gives us as a tool, and based on that tool alone, we have so much evidence based on all of the wave counts alone, from the macro to the micro time frames, and I think we may be looking for the fundamental observations of the SEC case concluding to be also observed in the Elliott wave counts as well. So hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next video with another updated. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye bye.